What I might do is flip another question to President Quang instead of repeating this one, if that's okay. So we have one from Dr. Leo Chong. Do professors feel less connection with their students when teaching online? And if so, how do you build a rapport? And I think you already talked about that intimacy before, so maybe you could elaborate a little bit more on that question for us.
The teacher-students communicative tools right now are quite diversified. Of course, in a traditional classroom, there's one professor and then many students. So one-on-one basis communication is almost impossible. But if you do have this digital device, and if the faculty, if the professors are putting their own teaching materials, like what Dr. Minh said, on a snowboard or on our digital platform, they are supposed to they are supposed to read, listen to all the lectures in that maybe for an hour or so, and then when they come to class, then they can of course only discuss based on what they have read. Then the communication level between the students and teachers and the student really improves. That's no question about it. But traditionally, and also I would say that there are faculty members who doesn't believe in one-on-one communications. When I say one-on-one communication, meaning if the students, well, of course the students can ask questions in a classroom, that's not a question. But if you're speaking of one-on-one communication on a more personal level, then it gets a bit different. In my case, for instance, well, of course I would welcome my students anytime. Any days, well, except Sundays. But if my students ask me questions on let's say they're on a platform, anytime, fine, because I can answer anytime. But if it is not just that, but if the person wants to be more on one-to-one communicative activity, it is going to be a bit too much. And the professors who has background of like myself, who's really not quite old, but older generation, not the digital generation, they could mind of one-on-one personal communication. So if this digital device, or if we have what we call third homepage or blog or Facebook or a platform that we use, it is really going to activate students, teachers, student as a group, maybe as a study group. The faculty members can come in anytime they want, and they can give an opinion. You just mentioned if there is any. This is one sort of faculty resistance of using digital technology. Yes, those type of faculty members may resist of using even this digital technology into classroom learning or into their course learning. But I think it is unstoppable of taking into consideration of this digital natives request over the classroom using over the course.
Sure. Thank you. I'm going to pause here for a moment and go back to a vote, partly because I'm getting a sense that a lot of the questions that are coming to us are around universities and academia resisting change. And I'd like to give myself a bit of time to think about a student-focused question that might also be around greater demand for different ways of seeing education delivered. So back to the vote again. Second question for you. Do universities need to keep up with the trends or a fast-moving technology? Yes, they do for voting yes, and no, they don't if you want to vote for B. So question again is, do universities need to keep up with the trends or fast-moving technology? And we'll give a few minutes to come back and see what you have voted for. I think I know what the answer will be there, but just want to test you again. And I think that discussion often in very technologically focused environments like this may get lost, but they're equally valuable. And I think we need to know why universities shouldn't completely change overnight. You know, they've worked very well for hundreds of years, and that's, you know, there are some traditions worth cherishing. Actually. So we've had the votes back for our question on universities. Do they need to keep up with technologies and trends? 23 of the audience voted yes, they do. And again, 7, I think, said no, they don't. I'm very interested in that. It's almost like the same ratio. Perhaps the question was very similar. Is there anyone brave enough in the audience who wants to say why they voted no? Yeah. So instead of my questions that are much more groundbreaking, because I think you've covered quite a lot of that, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to just think about the questions and the votes and to just hear some concluding remarks from you both on this topic and what you would consider this audience to be thinking about over the next 2 days, because it's a very connected and powerful audience that can take this discussion further back into their host countries. What would you like them to think about and take away?
In the introductory video clips, he mentioned the school really pay attention to the faculty members' classes and also the students. And I think it is really, well, it is traditionally, of course, it is right. I mean, you know, it's not really totally different. But if we add the concept of connectiveness, if you are digitally connected, I wonder if it is real connection, or it is just a connection based on your own needs, your own knowledge-based needs. So that connectedness. If that connectedness could give effect on your psychological level, your emotional level. In other words, if you are connected on a digital basis, would you really consider him or her as your friends, as your close friends? In other words, you have really a very heartfelt intimacy to the person. I'm not quite sure about that unless you are in the same physical space, face-to-face, communicating to his face and in his facial expressions and his motions. And unless you have that, could you really have the person put into your heart as your close friends? Not quite sure, but I see many instances of developing those connectedness to be a real friend. I see many cases of that. I've been hearing that. So such connectedness, I think I want to put really a positive idea on that. One of the examples is going to be that, you know, once when there was a disaster in Taiwan and also in China and in some countries down there, our students are putting their comforting message and giving out to those countries. And they got also responses from their the digitally connected friends or just acquaintances that they really are happy, happy in that sense, happy because they get attention from neighborhood countries, friends, and even if it is just words through the internet devices, they really take it really deeply in their heart that they have their neighbors who cares for them, for their welfare. So I think I want to put positive points for those connectedness. Although, again, I mean, it has to develop from level 1 with your effort to level 2 or level 3 or level 4. In other words, you need to put your effort in it to make that connectedness to be developed into a genuine connections as friends, as your neighbors, caring neighbors.
Thank you very much. And now over to Dr. Minh for your concluding remarks for us.
Think about the technology. Everyone see the benefits and the positive of the technologies, and also I think technology also have something disadvantage, like everyone go to street now, look at the screen of the smartphone, not look at the friends or colleagues beside, and many things like that. It's the same story at where the car, the first time discovery, and so the car is not running the right side and the left side, and they run everywhere they want to, and it's the most dangerous weapon at that time. And I think right now cars still the most dangerous weapon, kill a lot of people in the world every year. But we still use this because it's very comfortable and many advantage also. With the technology, I think it's the same thing because I agree with you that we cannot see change overnight. It's not overnight story. It's a long journey, and we have to find the way to fit with that. And technology also have advantage and disadvantage. We cannot hurry up without any consideration with the traditional topic or values, because if we change too much, we will lose many good value of the traditional that we built for 100 years ago, and we have to consider the old one and the new one, what the good thing and bad thing, and we have to change, but how to change, because if we change too fast, we lose everything.
Thank you. So too much pace and being relentless would actually end up with more disaster. But it's not gloom, because I think we talked about the positivity behind this journey, and I'm very pleased that we've come out with a balanced perspective. I think going forward, I think we've talked about students and academics, and as Dr. Naik talked about at the beginning of his keynote address, yes, we can create the best and the finest world-class university offer and use the digital domain to do this, and yes, we can increase diversity, but if the students and the academics don't come with us into this journey, then I think we will have failed massively, and a very expensive failure at that then causes much more problems for us in the future. So I think we need to bear that in mind as we go forward. I think we'll draw this discussion to a close now, and I'd like you to say thank you, welcoming our two speakers for starting off, I think, a fabulous debate for the next 2 days, and we will continue this. So please bring your hands together saying thank you to our speakers.
Thank you very much.
Discussion amongst the speakers. Please share them.
Sure, thank you. So we started off the conference with the big themes on technology and the race for talent, and how you work with young people and students to ensure that they have the skills to compete in a global environment. So it was a very interesting reflection between a much older, much more prestigious university in Korea and one that is new and emerging from Vietnam. And I think there is much learning between the two. So that was fascinating, and I think both university leaders talked about the role that technology has in providing more hope, actually, and more hope for university graduates who are actually going to go to work in a very different environment. So an I generation that has different needs, different capabilities, different training desires. And I think our university leaders showed a lot of willingness to listen and engage and think about the student journey, and also think about how to support the academics who will eventually teach those students, how to bring those academics on board. So I think it was a very hopeful conversation about the future and how young people can be supported. So I think that was the main takeaway from the keynote speech. The other takeaway from the keynote speech was their own reflections on seeing education as truly transformational for the benefit of Korea, for the benefit of other countries in East Asia that may also look to Korea for inspiration. Many countries like Vietnam, like Indonesia, really look to Korea as a leader. So it was very important, I think, to listen to President Hwang's reflections on how technology is going to accelerate Korea's competitiveness for the future and build Korean young people's resilience to take part as global citizens in the future of Korea and the world. So that was quite inspirational for me. Well, first of all, I'm really sorry that they're not here with us, but I think as young people, they have quite competing demands on their time. So absolutely, they will be studying and also managing their demands in different ways. So I hope you do get this message. The message is the future is truly bright, is truly connected, is truly global. And the role of technology has to be to bring the student closer to where the action is, the energy is, and your dreams and desires about what you want to see happen in the future. So this conference is actually bringing together your university leaders. You pay for courses to be at university, and your university leaders are debating on how to make that education much more relevant for you, so that when you graduate very confidently and you go and step into the job that is right for you and right for the future. So I think it's very important that your leaders take part in that discussion to make education more relevant for you. And we heard some fascinating talks from Professor Andy Meir, who's a professor of technology from Salford, which is one of our cities in the UK. And he talked about the fact that that very important principle that every student expects a teacher to teach him or her, and that student time being incredibly precious. And we know, for example, that these days students don't get the same time as you would want. So therefore, technology allows every student that democratic right to access a professor and a tutor on a very personalized basis. And I thought that was a wonderful message. Then we also heard inspirational comments about how technology and robotics can enable even better human contribution than what we can get today. So I think for young people, it's about understanding that the future has changed and how your education is responding to a future. And I think you would absolutely love some of that discussion. And I would say that you could follow the live discussions right now if it's not live. But also we're televising this so that the social media outlets will be able to disseminate this. So please do. But this conference is about your future and your leaders responding to your future. It's about giving you what you deserve, really, as students.